Hello, true art believers, and welcome to my YouTube channel where I make videos of acrylic pour paintings, live stream drawing videos, and have interviews with artists internationally around the world. Before I start, make sure to smash the subscribe button and hit the notifications bell. Do it now. Tonight, I have a phenomenal photographer, Will R. Probeck. Will is a semi-retired e-learning designer who is now a more engaged photographer slash gardener living in northern Michigan. He lives only a few minutes from the always changing Lake Michigan, where he is planning his next photography adventures to Iceland and driving his Mini Cooper around Lake Superior. His travel destination list is quite long. Let's hear what he has to say. Thank you and enjoy the conversation. Will, thank you for joining my show. I really do appreciate it. How are you doing today, Will?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Matt.
You are doing great. You were just talking about how wine makes you sleepy. And you had one glass of wine because we're talking about how your natural default level is introverted, and I was asking if you like drinking a little alcoholic beverages from time to time, and you stated that it makes you very sleepy. What kind of wine did you drink earlier?
It was a red Cabernet.
Was it expensive, or was it like the cheap? Is it Yellowtail? Is that Yellowtail? I don't know my wines.
Yeah, that's pretty cheap. But no, it was a little bit upscale from that.
Yeah. Isn't Mad Dog 2020 a wine, or is considered a wine?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't know either.
That sounds like some bottle out of a paper bag, I think.
It's not good, needless to say. Like it has like fruity flavors, and I think that it's called Mad Dog 2020, or they call it MD 2020 for short. I don't know where you can get it anymore, but it's probably next to the 40s at the gas station. I'm not sure.
It sounds like a Ripple back in the 60s and 70s.
What's Ripple?
That was an easy drunk back in college.
And you went, what college did you go to?
University of Illinois in Champaign, Urbana.
Yeah, what was your major there?
I was English education. I was going to be a high school teacher, and that didn't pan out too well. So
why did it pan out?
Oh, I wasn't that interested in, after my student teaching, I wasn't that excited about teaching high school kids. So
was it the crop of students that just didn't thrill you?
No, I wasn't really that dedicated. I think for a teacher has to be a bit more dedicated than I was.
Yeah, you got to have like a passion, or like some external drive, because just wanting to teach alone is it's almost not strong of a pool, especially with the wages that teachers get these days.
Right. Yeah.
And were there any other majors that you were looking into outside of English that you pondered while you were going to college?
Yeah, I was going to go to graduate school in film in DC, but that didn't pan out. So I kind of went into the technical field and was a technical writer, and then went into training from that because it made a lot more money than technical editing, writing profession.
You went into training?
Yeah, I create online training, and that's what
okay.
Yeah, I create the training, yeah.
So what online training do you specifically do?
It was mostly in the beginning, it was a lot of military work, and then my last 5 years was at the city and county of Denver and doing all the HR kind of training for new employees and that kind of instruction.
And how long ago did you start doing online training?
Probably 20 years ago.
20 years ago. So like you were at the very beginning of it all.
The cusp.
The cusp of online training. Like
Yes.
What was that like? What was online training like at the very beginning? Like what did it entail?
First, it was web-based, where we would create CDs, and we would send out CDs for the different companies that we were working for or employees. And most of this was real, like I said, a lot of military work. And we went to Air Force bases and tried to convert kind of old-timers, military trainers into online, how to create web-based training. And so from that, it went on from into actually internet, using the internet. So some of this was even before that we had internet, and it was, so I'm, aging. I've been doing this for a long time, since the 70s. So it was before computers, if you can believe that, typewriters, hand editing with pen and paper and stuff. And so it went from there. It kept increasing, it kept improving, and we kept moving the increasing the availability and the instruction for the learners. So it was very interesting how we improved and moved the needle to make it all online based stuff.
Would you say, I would probably answer this question for you, but would you say that online training now is vastly easier than when you first started?
Yes. We were using some pretty complicated software to create, we would do all electrical systems for airplanes and fuel systems. And so it was pretty complicated work, and it took a lot of time. Now it's probably a lot faster and probably a lot more creative and interactive. It was missing the interactive part back then.
Do you like doing it now as opposed to when it first started, when it was probably more labor intensive? Would you say?
Yeah. No.
Were you putting in more hours at that time than you are now?
Not that much. It was just more technical. You had to learn a lot more about the systems then. Now it's more, HR and kind of nice to know stuff that new employees need to know about the company and benefits and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of soft skill stuff, where the other stuff was a lot more technical skills that the military people needed, pilots. So a whole different audience that you were creating training for. So it was more difficult, I would say.
What's your email inbox like now these days?
Yeah.
Is it pretty clean, or is it really packed because you deal strictly on online training?
I don't do that much. I'm a freelancer now. I'm a consultant, so I take projects as they come to me. I've been working for this one client for a couple of years now. That's based out of Denver. So I spent like 30 years in Denver and then moved to Michigan 2 years ago.
What was the arts like to you as a child? What kind of things did you dabble in as a young Will R. Probeck?
Not much. I was more into sports, and then arts came when after my freshman year in college. One of my good friends called me up and asked me if I wanted to take a trip from Chicago. I grew up in Chicago area, and said we wanted to go to take a ride to the national parks out west for the summer. I go, sure. I never been out west. I never been. The only place I've been in is Chicago and Michigan. And so he had his MG midget, and
Probably a pretty sweet ride to drive an MG midget.
well, it's pretty small. All we had was like a tent and a sleeping bag, and we were both pretty stupid about what the West was like.
Probably not good to carry to like go camping in. Like, oh, you can store that stuff in there, and it's your sandwiches, like a sandwich.
Yeah, just about. And we didn't know that it got cold in June in the mountains, and so we were pretty ill prepared. And our parents didn't know much either, so they were about as ignorant as we were. But my grandmother had given me a camera to use, and it was an old Kodak rangefinder. And I took that and I got some film. It was all black and white, I think, film. And she showed me a couple things with it, and I took off. And that was my first dabble in any photography. And I guess I was hooked from then on. So
what kind of shots were you taking? What did you get any memorable shots from that trip?
No, I think it was just introducing me to what film was all about and how to look at things differently than I was before. I never really looked at anything to photograph or anything that was really interesting. So I think that's the whole concept, that the whole thing about film got me excited about it. And then when I got the results back, some of them were horrible, and mostly they were like pictures of snow and waterfalls and stuff like that. But it was the whole idea of just capturing something that I was looking at that I'd never done before was pretty amazing.
And that gave you the bug, the photography bug. Was it photography bug? Sorry, I was like photography bug. I was slurring. So that gave you the bug, huh?
Pretty much, I think. Yeah.
Did you end up getting a camera afterwards, or did you like get a side hustle, a side job to kind of buy one, or what happened there? Or did you keep using the camera that you had?
No, that one wasn't very good, and I got I was a writer in college. I did a lot of poetry, and so I entered the writing contest at the University of Illinois, and I was the grand prize winner. And that was a big $500. And I bought my first camera, actual single lens reflex camera. It was an Olympus OM1. It was, long.
$500. Wouldn't that be like $5,000 now?
Oh,
or like 10,000.
Maybe. I don't know if it didn't cost 500, but it was. I thought that was a good use of my money.
Do you know do you remember the poem that you wrote for the contest?
It was a selection of stuff because I was in a creative writing class.
Okay.
And, there was a number of them.
Do you recall any short poem that you could narrate for the?
You really put me on the spot now.
It's like, you wouldn't believe this, guys. I went on this podcast last night, and the dude made me tell him a poem that I wrote in college. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, you gotta be kidding me, is right.
Do you happen to know it though?
No.
Oh gosh, I could I don't know if I could recall some poems that I made when I was in high school, or I didn't make any in college, but definitely silly ones in high school. more like as a farce as opposed to being serious. So do you still do poetry, or was that like the end of your poetry your career as a poet?
Well, I still did a little bit after that, and I sent stuff off to be published, and I got a few things published, but then the more I had taken photos, the more I became more interested in photography than poetry, because I could express myself differently with photographs, and that seemed to suit me better than sitting down and trying to write. But I still love the idea that someday I should be able to write, but I better do it sooner than later.
Do you have any like kernels or any ideas, like nuggets of inspiration that you want to write about?
Well, sort of about gardening in the mountains at 8,400 feet. It was quite an experience to be creating gardens at that elevation, and no one thought you could really do it. And I was.
Would you call yourself a master horticulturist?
Yeah, I was a master gardener, but it was funny about. I put that on my resume one time that I was a master gardener, and the guy who was part of the. This was up in the mountains, Jefferson County, master gardener program. So I couldn't say I'm a master gardener anymore because I wasn't currently in the program. So I was a past master gardener, and I'm no longer a master gardener, but I still have the knowledge, and that was in Colorado. So Colorado is a lot different than Michigan or where I lived in Maryland, but gardening is awesome. I love the challenge I had, and I can talk more about gardening, but I don't know if it's interesting to me. But
what does it take to garden at that elevation?
Well,
you didn't think you were going to talk about this, did you?
No, I love talking about it, and I probably knew you were going to ask me because I wrote something about it. First of all, the season's real short, and you can get snow almost at any month, except for probably August and July. It doesn't snow. At least this was in the past. Now the climate has changed considerably, and they don't get that much snow, and it's probably not as cold as long as it was. But so back, probably in the 90s, it was seasons are short, and there's these big animals called elk that were around our property. I don't know if you know about elk or anybody else listening, but they're about 1,000-pound animal, and they're
so pretty small.
No, kind of big.
Oh, they're big. I thought 1,000 pounds was light.
No, like a deer might weigh 300 pounds. You're pulling my leg, man.
So like 3 deer and a quarter, right?
Yeah, it's about equal to
a bear. How much does a bear weigh?
Oh, a bear is like 500-600 pounds, something like that.
So an elk is 2 bears.
Yeah. So if you're driving down the highway and you see one of these bull elk that have antlers that are, like
size of BW, like VW bugs.
Oh yeah, you're driving down at the night and you see one of these
run
standing in the middle of the road. You go, I'm dead.
Do you actually say I'm dead?
Yeah.
Oh boy, I'm dead. I should have not went down this road.
No way.
So tell me more about like how elk and gardening affect the while you're gardening at the elevation, how the elk affect your crops.
They eat everything.
They eat it all.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's basically the challenge is how to get elk away from your crops.
Yeah. Either you grow enough for the elk and yourself, and you fence it off, or there's some elk repellent, or there's stuff that we tried to scare them away. But when you have like a herd of 100 elk, it becomes a bit difficult. But I did it, and I had submitted an article with the Garden Design magazine back quite a while ago, and they gave me I was a horticultural hero for being able to have a successful gardens at 8,400 feet. So it was kind of cool.
Did they say you're pulling our chain? No way did you do that?
Yeah, they kind of thought that when they called and started talking to me. They couldn't believe that I could really do that with all those animals. It's not just elk. There were bear, there was foxes, there's all the wild animals. They loved my garden.
Oh my God. Those darn animals, they love what I was growing. I'm so good at it, and
Yeah.
they couldn't stop eating my crops.
So
how did you fend them off? How much DEET did you use? That's for flies? That's mosquitoes.
Yeah, that's mosquitoes. No,
but how much DEET did you use?
I know, man. I stayed out there every night and scared.
You scared them away.
I played some rock and roll out there. I played some Rolling Stones and scared them away. So.
Really? You played music?
No, I'm pulling your chain.
Oh, that would be a great story that was the actual case. Like, what I did was elk hate rock and roll music. They absolutely loathe it. What I did is I took some subs and some speakers, put it out next to my crops, and blasted it. And the elk were running away. They're running away in terror. And guess what? Crops love rock and roll music. They thrive in it. So it was a double whammy. Elk were leaving, crops were growing, and I got an article in a what was the magazine?
Garden Design.
I got an article in Garden Design because of rock and roll. Thank you. Is that exactly how it worked out?
Yeah, that'd be perfect. I should have done that.
You could just change the story a little bit. So, do you still do any gardening?
Yeah, a little bit. Mostly vegetable stuff now at a community garden, but I don't have that much space now.
So,
there's a lot of trees in Michigan, so it's more. Colorado doesn't have that many trees. That Michigan has huge trees.
Huge trees.
A lot of shade. Yeah.
Could you give us, if you were to teach a noob, do you know what a noob is?
Yeah.
Like have you in video games it's called a noob, which is NOO. It's called NOOB, and it's someone who just started playing the game, some video game, and they decide that they wanted to test the water and go online, and then they end up getting beat constantly from the older players, and they would say, "Oh, you're a noob." So that was a little segue into what noob meant. So if you could give 3 tips to a newbie gardener on how to grow crops, what would it be?
3 tips. Create the soil. So the soil is your main ingredient. That you have good soil, composted soil.
How do you make good composted soil?
Whether you can make your own compost, or you can buy some bag of cow shit and
all right,
a few bags of it, and you mix it all around, and so it's easy to plant your crops. And you'd want a good.
So compost, and then what's the second one and third one?
Second one would be make sure you water, and another one would be get crops that are suitable for your environment. Sometimes people buy crops that will never live because they're in the wrong zone for where they live. So you need to make sure you got the right zone of plants.
Can you like give your crops or your plants too much water?
Yeah. And they don't breathe. They don't get the nutrients from the soil.
And
it's always a problem of watering too much or too little.
What's the best way of creating your own, like the perfect, like compost?
Well, if you if you had a compost bin and you collect your like vegetables that you don't like lettuce and potato skins that you throw away, anything that's compostable, not meat, but anything that's a vegetable, and compost it with some dirt and rotate it. You got green and grass, putting grass in there. And if you don't want to use chemicals, make sure you don't use grass that's people have fertilized with bad chemicals and stuff. So I've always been an organic gardener, so I'm pretty careful with what I put in the soil and what the plants eat.
Is coffee grounds and eggshells good for composting?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Is it I don't know, do eggshells have like nitrogen in them? Is that why they're good?
Green is nitrogen.
Green? Okay, I don't know.
I'm not sure about eggshells, but they are good. So just say they're good. That'd be good.
You can't go wrong with eggshells in your compost.
No, you can't.
Do you have to like stir it around and sift it, like rotate it?
Yeah, you do.
Why do you have to rotate that? I never knew why.
It decomposes faster that way.
Is it true that compost that actually can catch fire?
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I had a big compost bin in Maryland, and so any place where it's a little more humid, it's easier to decompose the soil or your whatever you put in there. And so, especially if you get like horse manure or cow manure, that's a great thing to heat it up because you want it to heat in order to decompose. And we had this, we'd go to these stables and get all this horse manure and pile it in there with grass. Grass gets really hot. It started burning, and it was smoking and smelling up the neighbors. They hated us. So God, you're stinking this whole place up.
So like, that's interesting because for a while I was doing my own compost heap, and I had some friends. They saw it that I had a compost heap. They told me like, you shouldn't have that so close to the house. It could catch on fire. I'm like, what? Like what? Yeah, I hear you're supposed to have like 20 feet, 50 feet away from your house. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to walk that far to do that.
Yeah. But the one thing about gardening, that my main interest with gardening was that I would find the most colorful or unusual plants, whether they're like peppers or tomatoes or heirloom tomatoes, and some really cool poppies and other flowers, so I could photograph them. So that was
really, so that's part of your process.
Yeah, and so I would have like a double reason for having a garden, and also being able to photograph things that were pretty cool looking. That at least I thought they were. And I kind of specialized with purple potatoes before they were interesting. And one thing about the elk wouldn't eat the potatoes because obviously they grow underground, and so I was pretty successful with growing potatoes and photographing a lot. And they were pretty photogenic once you pick them up and pull them up and stuff. And the kids really, when my kids were really young, they really liked digging up the potatoes. It was like Easter eggs, finding stuff that was hidden.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool.
There's
lots of good reasons to garden.
So, are you like a professional potato producer?
Not anymore. No.
Not anymore. Do
No.
you like eating potatoes?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. What's your favorite way to make or prepare a potato?
I like purple potatoes. Have you ever had purple potatoes?
I don't know. Maybe red potato. I've had red potatoes. I don't know. They look kind of purple to me. I don't know
Yeah.
if we're.
Well, most purple potatoes came from Peru, and so a funny story about I had made I don't know, it was a potato salad or mashed potatoes, and they were all purple for my father-in-law, and he was like so grossed out that he was eating purple potatoes. But I'd say mashed potatoes. I like color. I like to eat food that's colorful. I like to photograph colorful things, and I also most of all my photography early on was all black and white. So I did nothing but black and white, and I had developed all my black and white, printed all my images black and white, and did all the mounting and matting and all that stuff. It was all black and white. And then I moved into color, but still was segue into that.
Will, do you have an Instagram page where you take food selfies?
Yeah, some of the food selfies are on my Instagram page.
Have you considered making your own separate Instagram page where you just do strictly food selfies?
I haven't, but that's a good idea. I should.
Like maybe the food that you've produced with your own hands, and you concoct it into a meal, and then you photograph it perfectly, right?
Yeah, I do a lot of I would say I'm a really pretty good baker. I bake a lot of bread, and so.
Do you have world famous chocolate cookies?
My daughter does cookies. I don't do cookies that well. I do.
Does your daughter make world famous chocolate cookies?
Yeah, she does, I think.
I love chocolate cookies.
Yeah, you know what? I'll send you some.
If you ever go to like family reunions or parties, and they have the spread, or Thanksgiving, and they have the table all set up, and then they have desserts. If there's cookies there, I'm just hovering there eating them like they're Lay's potato chips. It's a problem.
That sounds like it.
It sounds like. Okay, well, Will, so we have some of your work, in queue here. Let's kind of you want to show some of your work to the viewers here and talk about some of your photos?
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, let's do some of that. So we got this. We're going to add this to the stream here, and make sure that you're ready and ready to go, and we'll begin right now.
Okay.
So yeah, so we're on one of your websites here.
Yeah, that is. But so this is an opening page of one of the websites. But one of my favorite places is the Great Sand Dunes of National Park in southern Colorado.
Yeah.
Incredible place. It's always changing. This isn't sand dunes, but kind of my statement about photography is that I do not like to be in that kind of position as a photographer with, a whole bunch of photographers taking a picture of the same thing.
Yeah. Talk about, just like, oh, wow. That does make a statement, right? Where they're just doing, it's just the angle would be different or marginally, right?
Yeah. And this is a pretty photographic place in Death Valley National Park. So I don't know if you ever heard of Zabriskie Point, but anyway. So
why did you take that photo?
Pardon?
Why did you take that photo?
to show that my dislike for some aspects of photography. That
What do you dislike about? Tell me about that disdain. Not dislike, disdain, but like
well,
what deters you from doing that type of photography?
well, actually, I've been in a few workshops, but not to me. I mean, there's a lot of things you can learn from a workshop, but and there's a lot of great photographers that can teach you a lot of different things. And so I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but like I said, I'm more introverted, and so I like the isolation more of photography than as a group activity. So I don't think there's some good things about a workshop. I would love to go to a shooting the night sky workshop. I think that would be very educational for me, because that's something I haven't done, and something I would really like to do, is to learn more about night photography and shooting the sky and the Milky Way and all that kind of stuff. But
so that was a workshop that
it probably was.
Probably was
with all those people and the tripods, and I would imagine that was a workshop, and there's some other stragglers in there, it looks like. But anyway, perfect timing though. I loved it. So that's kind of what that's my photography statement for whatever it is. So
yeah, show some more. Can we look at, see what
so the sand dunes. They're the highest sand dunes in North America. They're always changing, and if you see up here on top, you can climb all the way up to the top. And once you get to the top, you think it's the top, but guess what? There's miles and miles of more sand on the other side of it. So, but that's the highest point. And what's so awesome about the sand dunes is that the light's always changing. The shape of the dunes is always changing because it's windy.
The wind, yeah.
There's 14,000 foot mountains behind there, and so there's a lot of weather that comes through and a lot of snow. And if you catch it at the right time, it can be all covered with snow during the fall and winter.
Mm-hmm.
It melts pretty fast because obviously the sand gets pretty hot. And the best time to photograph is either early morning sunrise or evening sunset, because the sand cools down. It gets pretty cold both times at morning or night. And the tricky part, and we'd go there, we'd camp, or we'd stay someplace. There's nothing around there, so it's either you camp or you have to go. It's about a hour away to the closest town. But so
what's it like going up one of those? Did you walk up one of them?
Yeah, it's
tiring.
It's very strenuous, and it's you have to do it, like I said, in the morning or the evening, because the sand gets really hot.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this water it's the creek that comes through. It's from the snow melt from the mountain. This mountain up here, this is a 14,000 foot mountain, and depending on the amount of snow in the winter, this creek, it pulsates. So here you can see that it's has waves on it. It's only like not even a foot deep.
Yeah.
But it happens in May, the last couple of weeks in May, and sometimes in June. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the time there's no water. And so there's really no water around this part of Colorado. So a lot of people come here and they kind of play in the water. They call it, they can be swimming, they can have rafts and stuff like that. But the water is so freaking cold in the morning because it's all coming through the mountain. It's all the melt from the snow, and it's probably close to freezing. And so you have to walk across it in order to get to the dunes start here. And so through some years of experience, you finally figure out, well, I better wear some boots, some rubber boots or something, so I don't have to take my shoes off and then freeze to death when I get over there. But it's the water's numbing. It's your feet feel like your feet are frozen off. But anyway, it's always changing. The colors are incredible.
Then you could dip your feet in the warm sand later on.
Well, in the morning it's not warm yet. That's the problem.
You just wait for a little while and then dip in there. But then it gets hot and then you got to leave.
Yeah, it gets very hot. It burns your feet.
Scalding hot sand.
Yeah. And I like I said, I like to take a lot of black and white, so you get a lot of shapes, and you got a lot of contrast with light and dark, and it's windy a lot of the time, so stuff's blowing around. So you hike in there in the morning, and you probably have to wait an hour or so before the sun comes over, because there's mountains on to the east, and so you have to wait for the sun to come over the mountains in order to shine on the dunes. And so you try to pick a spot where you think it's going to look really nice, and the light and dark, and it's going to look pretty fantastic. So I do a lot of black and white, and you can it's just pretty amazing the difference between anytime you go there, it's all different. And so again, it's obviously color, but it's a different view of a close-up. This is all sand, and this is early morning, so I use a warming filter on my camera to make it warm up the sand. Otherwise, it's pretty dull. But the light with the warmth makes it look pretty interesting, I think. So you can see the difference, colors and shapes and everything that the dunes brings.
Do you get out like a picture viewer when you're taking photos like this to figure out where you crop in things, or you just kind of point and shoot and hope for the best? How do you plan some of these photos out?
A lot of them are pretty instantaneous, and I crop afterwards. But
okay.
That's a good point, because now I'm learning to kind of look a little differently and crop a little better. And it all depends what kind of lens I'm using. I usually it depends. If I'm using a telephoto, it's easier to crop, but I usually use a wide angle lens, and so I need to crop more than I probably have in the past, but I've been cropping more so to make it a little more interesting. So good point that you bring up. But I do while I'm waiting for the sun to come over the other mountains, I look around and I move around different places where I think the light. So I kind of plan and try to stay in a certain area, because if I move around too much when the sun comes up, I lose everything that I thought was going to happen at that certain spot. So I kind of stay in one place and hope for the best. But you come back the next day, and things have all changed because of the wind, and it blows all the sand around. And so,
and is this a photo? Like, is this like a photography trip? Did you schedule this out like ahead of time in the future, and then kind of have designated like points that you're trying to check off your list?
It's different spots. Yeah, there's this time of year, like I said, because the water's there. So it's in May and early June, and the water makes it a lot more interesting, especially for sunrise and sunset. You get a lot of reflections. You'll see in a minute. But I try to pick a spot every time I go, and hope for the best, see how the light is. They have some great storms that come through, a lot of lightning, and it can get pretty dangerous during the evening with lightning strikes. And there's There's been fires around here because of the lightning strikes. So
Have you experienced that before?
Yeah, there was one fire that when we were there one time that was pretty severe, and so there was. It didn't hit the park, but you could see it from a distance because there's nothing. Everything's flat there except for the sand dunes, so you can see for miles and miles.
Yeah,
every direction. So it's.
Were you in any immediate danger, or were you away from it?
Away from it, but that's a good story. It hails a lot. I don't know if you know about Colorado, but it gets a lot of hail, and so some of these storms bring hail, and that's one thing. We were down there one time, and I got hit by hail, and it was just like hit me right in the hand, and you wouldn't think the hail, but coming up from how far it was ever coming from, it was pretty painful. But so you get a lot of hail and you get a lot of rain, and there's been a lot of flooding. And there was a forest fire a number of years ago, burned a lot of the national park, a lot of the vegetation, and so it can happen. So
I imagine being hit with hail from the sky is probably like having a rock falling from the sky and hitting your hand.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, it felt like it. So again, you can see different shapes, and that's because of the wind. And so it's again, I use wide angle so I can get a lot of foreground and background.
Do you like when you're taking photographs of the sand dunes? Do you appreciate more the serpentine formations, or the more irregular ones like this one that you're presenting?
I like all of them. I don't know if I have a favorite one.
Afterwards, do you like taking a stick and drawing on the sand dunes and making pictures with a stick?
No.
No. Will was here, and was spelled like a WZ.
Yeah. I can walk over this, and so I get my footprints all over it. So someone goes, "Oh, I can't take a picture of that." But then in a couple hours, my footprints are going to be gone because
of the wind.
The wind. So I've done that other places though too. But anyway, that's another story.
There's some footprints.
Yep.
Get those out of there. You can use Photoshop.
Yeah. So but you climb way up on there. It's and a lot of people climb at night and go up there, and so they can do a lot of the checking out the night sky. It's because it's now it's one of the, I don't know, there's not that many night sky parks, and so this has been designated a night sky. So you can do the dunes, and then you can go climb up on the dunes and get a lot of celestial stargazing, night photography, whatever. So it's pretty cool. I haven't done that, but every time I go down to do that, it gets cloudy at night, so I get kind of I miss out on that. So you got to time that pretty well, or stay down there for a while in order to make sure it's going to be clear.
Mm-hmm. So what about this one? What's the story with this piece?
No
story?
Not really. Just my wife walking and saying, go out there and walk so I can get a picture of you. So
that's the story. That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
All right.
So
changing it up.
So I was telling you about the water and the colors. This would be a sunset. So again, if you're down there in the summer or when it's beastly hot and there's tons of mosquitoes, it's not a great place to go in the summer. But this time of year in May, like I keep saying, is beautiful and there's no
Yeah.
bugs. And the colors with the water, it's pretty amazing. That's all water, so it kind of looks like sand, but um,
It
it's
does look like sand. How do you get the photo feel like the extreme contrast? The color is so vivid. What's causing that? Is that some photo manipulation, or is it just the color was that high chroma at the time?
well, I think it's a combination of both. It's been enhanced a little bit. I don't try to enhance too much. I try to bring the colors out to be a little more exciting. I'm not into making it so unrealistic, but there I guess that's okay if people do that, but and I guess a lot of time now the big thing is to put in fake skies. And, let's say there was no sky there. Well, I could have now with the software,
Yeah.
I can put fake sky in there. I could put stars.
Is it
So
like a sky swap? Isn't it called like sky swap or something? Or
yeah, you put another layer in there, and sometimes it works. I could pull a full moon, and some places, hey man, a full moon would look great. Like I was in the Arches National Park in Utah, where there's nothing but rocks and stuff. Or hey, a full moon would look really great within this arch. But I don't really do that too much. But I can see where you could do that, and it'd make it more interesting.
what are your thoughts on that type of photo manipulation? Is it still photography to you, or is it going a different direction? Because there's a lot of traditionalists in photography, like in the field of photography, where they're like, we don't want to see that type of manipulation. Otherwise, it's like I think there's a name for it, but I'm just going to catalog it as photo manipulation at this, just for this conversation. I don't know the actual terminology. So what are your thoughts on that? When does it become like photo manipulation, and when is it still in the realm of photography for you?
Well, for me, I'm pretty much a realist when I'm photographing something, and I think it's the effort to go someplace where there's going to be it's going to be something like this. You're going to have a powerful sunset. You're going to have all the elements are there for a possible, really nice capture of the scene. And so, you plan on it. And I think that's the whole point of photography, is that a lot of times things just happen because you're there. And
Yeah.
a lot of great photographs are taken because you happen to be in a great place, and
Yeah.
it's awesome. And other times you're there and you go, man, this looks like hell. And, there's nothing interesting about it. But if I could put a new sky in there, I could do a lot of things. I guess I've been totally against it, probably a year ago. Now I can see where it does have some benefit if you don't do it where it's totally unrealistic. I mean, you could, if there's a totally blue sky, and it would look better maybe with some clouds. But a lot of times people do it and the clouds look like shit. And
what are those cotton balls floating in the air?
Yeah.
And they put little smiley faces. The sun has a smile face on it, and he has those little lines for sun rays.
Oh yeah.
Like, I thought this is not a real photo. This is doctored somehow. You're fooling me.
Yeah, sun rays is a big deal. You can put a lot of sun rays into
look like laser beams.
Yeah, and then a lot of times people put them in and they're going the wrong way because the sun doesn't shine that way. So,
Is it like lens flares? Lens flares? You can make lens flares effects.
yeah, you can do anything now with sky stuff. So
you can make spaceships coming out.
You do anything. Yep, you can do.
Yeah, you can do spaceships. You can do.
You can put a sailboat on that.
A sailboat in the air flying around.
Yeah.
It's flying on the wind,
Yeah.
you know, like some fantasy movie. I don't remember. There's a fantasy movie where the people are sailing on the wind using their boats.
Or like Alice in Wonderland or something.
Sure, it was probably it could have been that. Any fantasy show or movie that has a boat that's flying in the air.
Yeah.
Just insert title. There you go.
Right. But quick answers is not. I really don't like that kind of manipulation, but I've tried it.
To a degree.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
oh, I like this one with that dried wood there.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you like one of them, Matt. That's nice that you like one of them.
Oh, do you want to say I like each one?
No, I'm just kidding.
We could make this like a critique session where you don't want to say anything negative. You just say I like this.
No,
right? No, I know this one's really nice. Mainly because I like the organic textures on that. Right?
Yeah,
that dried log coming off in the foreground.
Yeah, this is a cool spot where I had another one, but it was the size of the image was too large. You probably really like that one too, but so you can see this one would be a perfect one for a sky enhancement. That
floating cotton balls.
If it didn't have any sky in there, this would be a perfect one to see if you could put something in there. But
I don't know. I'd probably like it with more blue.
Yeah.
You know, maybe if there was more blue, I wouldn't say it was a bad thing, you know, as a compositionally. But you know, the clouds itself are really nice being there.
Yeah, that's nice. Thank you.
They kind of actually echo the curvilinear lines of that tree stump there. So that might be a compliment to the form.
Oh yeah. So you can see at least this one had snow on it, that mountain. So I think this is probably fall. Yeah, because trees are changing. But
yeah.
So anyway, I'm glad I put that one in there. It was a good one. And just more shapes. And
have you ever, when you were in these sand dunes, have you ever seen or tried out those like sand skateboards? Are they?
Yeah, they use. I haven't, but my kids, we would take sleds, those, and slide down there, and they would take skis on snowboards. People snowboard down on here. So
without a ski lift, you have to walk up each time.
Yeah, you do.
You'd get a huge workout for like 20 seconds of thrill.
Right.
I imagine it would tear up the bottom of your sled or snowboard, wouldn't it? Like
you could do a nice face plant in the sand. That's pretty cool,
and you have that, like sand in your teeth, and it's like gritty, you know? Like, oh, what's my yeah. And so did you ever do that, or was this your kids?
Just my kids did it.
You never even tried it?
No, I'm not much a skier kind of.
No one ever triple dog dared you to go down the hill in a snowboard?
I might roll down that.
I triple dog dare you to roll down this hill, Will.
Yeah, okay, I'll roll down. But the thing, they allow that as a national park because it's not hurting anything, and the sand changes so much anyway, so it's not.
Yeah.
So I think sand dunes are done. So
is this your room? It's a nice room.
No, this is something that some new kind of thing. This is an app. It's called Art Rooms, and so you can you pick a room and you can put an image. So in order to give people a better perspective of what one of my images might look in their home or in their office or something.
Art rooms, huh?
So this is in Michigan, and I've been kind of doing. This is near where I live, so Lake Michigan has awesome sunsets. I mean, they're probably the best sunsets I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of them. But
why do you think that is?
Well, it's the water, and there's a lot of weather systems that come through, so it creates some nice atmosphere for sunsets.
Does the artwork come with the room?
No, this is my artwork. This is just showing, let's say you had a room like this. This is
Oh
what
man, I wish I had a room like that.
do you? That couch doesn't look too comfy.
Well,
But
it doesn't, but the way it's lit, it's a very nice room. I just like the fact that there's nothing on the floor. I think that's a very attractive to me to have nothing on the floor right now.
Yeah, that's a good thing. But
They should make it more realistic, though. They should throw stuff on the floor.
Yeah, you could. That'd take away from, you know, the image. People would start complaining about the. This looks like Matt's house, you know.
There's McDonald's boxes on the floor.
Yeah,
it's like a fry or something. You know, like I don't know, like a little dust mites or something underneath it. You know, there's got to be something underneath the couch. it's like Matt's.
Anyway, and so you can show like canvas metal prints, and you'll see that. So I've been doing a lot of waterscapes with lighthouses. There's tons. There's like 90 something lighthouses in Michigan, and so it's a lot of trips to make the lighthouses. But so again, another sunset with
what lighthouse is that? What lighthouse is that?
This is in Manistee. This is down the street from me, so it's pretty nice.
So you can just make like photo after photo of this scene in different versions, iterations.
Yeah, I could, and I have.
Awesome.
Yeah, winter. You know, I do a lot of this in the winter compared to spring and summer. So it's winter. It's all ice, and there's ice all over the pier, and the lighthouse is covered with ice, and so summer's a great place to be in Michigan. Actually, there's 4 seasons here, but anyway. So more of that, more lighthouse, black and white, kind of cool. And this is a winter shot. These are called ice volcanoes.
Why are they called that?
These are waves, frozen waves. And so the waves are frozen, and there's holes in the middle, and the water, if you get it just right, the waves come up, and the water shoots out of the frozen waves. So it's pretty cool phenomenon.
How would the water do that? Like, how would it start freezing in that position?
It goes underneath. It doesn't freeze all the way down. And this is kind of shallow. This isn't that deep.
Okay.
This is maybe, I don't know, 5-6 feet deep. And so it's, that's what happens. And
do you have a lot of the like a lot of photos of ice volcanoes?
No, because this is like the first year I've really seen them. They don't happen all the time. It all depends how cold it gets. And and it's funny, you can be down there one day, and the next day they're gone. You know, the wind shifts and the ice just blows out. It's pretty cool. What it's like in the weather here.
So you almost have to have a camera with you at all times, just in case there's ice volcanoes.
Right. And I usually do, whether it's my iPhone or my other camera. But
yeah.
I do love my iPhone. I must say that I'm pretty attached to but okay, now I was going to go, see, now we talked about flowers and why I would grow certain flowers to photograph. So I would do a lot of, want me to keep going?
Yeah, these are nice.
Okay, so
I like colors.
I would do a lot of macro and some, try to do abstract pictures of flowers and some cool colors. These are morning glories, and I would try to get the light usually behind the flower and photograph it, or made it the colors pop.
Make it glow a little bit too.
Yeah, it gives it kind of a surreal kind of look.
Do you stage it? How do you set the light up? Do you take these flowers in like a little studio area, or
This is all natural light.
oh, all natural?
I'll show you one that's coming up that's interesting that I shot in a greenhouse, where the problem with photographing flowers is the wind. So you either you have to have kind of a box or something to cover it, or have it in a greenhouse that they're growing, or hope for a non-windy day, or early in the morning. Usually it's not as windy. So, and the lights are usually better in the. A lot of problems with photographing flowers or stuff because of the wind. Now this one.
Get blurry flowers.
This is my angel poppy, and I had grown this specifically to photograph it, and so I grew this in the greenhouse, and just one day, there was no wind, and it looked like, man, this looks just like an angel. And it's actually a poppy. It's called a love poppy, and they're annual. But and so I could erase any of the background that I had in there. There wasn't much, but I usually photograph with the sun behind it, so I'd get the nice contrast. And
how is it floating like that?
Pardon?
How is it floating like that? Is it like staged? Is it hanging off something, or do you?
No, there was a stem, but I erased the stem behind it. So,
you photo manipulated this stem out of the way?
No, I edited it. Definitely looks a lot better this way than the original. So
it does have the surreal abstract effect where it does feel like it's levitating, and with that almost steel gray, that dark steel gray in the background, contrasting against that kind of like almost subtly purplish blue white tone.
Yeah.
Is very nice. The contrast helps quite a bit on this piece.
And that's why I like to show them.
Is that some wine? Were you drinking some wine?
That was just water. Some.
No wine?
No.
You mean to send you some Mad Dog 2020?
Yeah, I probably should call out for some. But anyway, that's why I like to show these rather than just an image with, not on a background or a frame or a mat. It gives it a little bit more detail for someone could say, hey, I would like that in my house. So,
and it just also it gets the viewers and the customers to imagine their house looking so immaculate.
Yeah. If only that's true.
And it's like this is what it's like this is the perception, but the reality of like what it would look like in your house. Like let's say you have the same couch, but like the reality is vastly different, because that's a beautiful shot, right? But like the furniture,
yeah,
it's so nice. Man, I think I'm just jealous of really nice furniture right now, Will.
You must be. Maybe you could throw some, spill some wine on the couch.
I think deep down inside, I just have a little bit of jealousy towards nice furniture and a clean floor.
Okay.
Maybe I yearn for a clean floor and a nice set of furniture. I don't know. I'm sounding superficial, but the reality is I don't really care. It's just like, wow, that's really nice. Do you have any more, or are we running towards the end of your presentation, Will?
We're running through the end, but anyway, I'll just show you some some poppies that are kind of cool. And I think there's somewhere. Those are huge. Wouldn't that be cool to have that in your house if you had big walls like that? But anyway, it's.
Do you have 8-foot walls?
No. Well, Yeah, I could probably handle a couple of those, but
Is
you
that
wouldn't.
is the piece on the right a reflection, or is that like a cast shadow or a flower behind it?
That's the flower behind it.
Because it almost looks like it's on a mirror and it's creating a reflection.
Hey, that's good. Yeah. Well, you could. I like that. You could think that way. That's perfect.
I like to think odd and I like to think differently. So did you grow these?
Yes.
Yeah.
See,
Do you still
if you had these in your house, you wouldn't have to you wouldn't have the garden, man. You could see these every day of your life. So,
and you don't need to put these on your wall because you actually have them in front of you.
yeah.
You own them for the period that they're still alive.
Yeah, they're not alive too long, but
Then you got to grow them again.
I got to get the seeds, yeah, and start all over again. So that's another. Look how clean that is. The floor, man, it's just unbelievable.
it this is how, Will. This is sorry.
But you're
Will,
not
this is how
supposed
you
to do
should.
that.
Will, this is how you sell your work. Is you remark on how clean the floor is.
Yeah,
Don't even talk about the work itself. You just talk about how clean and beautiful the area is organized, and then you're like, and then there's some of my work right here, and then you kind of ease into the presentation, right?
right.
No,
I think
that's it.
that's it.
So, Will, I want to ask you a few questions about how you function as a photographer. Um, let's kind of backpedal it a little bit. Um, so I through my experience of talking to numerous photographers, there's certain like categories that they're in, and some are really hyper organized, and some not so much. How would you label yourself with regards to what kind of genre photographer are you? Are you like an organized photographer? Do you plan out your dates where you're going, when you're going to go, how far ahead of time are you planning out your photography sessions, or is it more like you carry your camera around like you just stated, and when you find something that a light bulb flicks on your head, you set up?
Well, both ways. Probably more disorganized than organized. Um, if there's going to be there's apps where you can get that you're going to know where the sun's going to set, when what time, where in the sky it's going to be, if there's going to be clouds or something like that, and it tells you precisely where to be in any part of the world. And so to be able to plan that, I use that. And other than that, I pick places that I know that are interesting to go, no matter what. Not probably not always in different times of year. So if we go on vacation, like we're going to Iceland, May is a pretty cool time to go. So we try to plan things at certain countries where the weather's going to be nice, or there's going to be I'd say they're going to be the Northern Lights, but the Northern Lights aren't there in May, most likely. So there's a lot of water at that time with waterfalls and stuff. So I try to be organized if we're going someplace far, where the time of year is important to photograph. Yeah. So other than that, now that I'm semi-retired, we can kind of go. We're more free to go whenever the time is right. So,
what are you planning? What type of like photos are you planning on taking or shooting in Iceland?
There's a lot of waterfalls, so we're trying to do maybe some slow motion, maybe some videos and photography of the waterfalls, and there's this, it's be unexpected actually. So I guess that's the thing about what I like about photography is that it's not always planned and that I can be surprised when I get there. So I'm always ready for the new experience to to learn and to be part of the environment, no matter where it is.
So what do you mean by slow motion photography?
I'll just slow shutter speeds where it's going to show the water in a more of a blurred rather than just a realistic shot of a waterfall. So it gets show you the motion. So you slow it down with your shutter speed and make it look a little more interesting. Same way with waves. So that's something I need to think about when I'm shooting, because sometimes shooting waterfall is pretty boring just to see a waterfall. You have to make it look a little more interesting. So
you got to capture it in a crisp still frame.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you take photos, are you one of those photographers that does a lot of volume, or are you more meticulous? Do you only take a handful of photos and hope for the best, or are you taking every trip or every time you go on a photo run, you're coming back with 500 photos?
Interesting question. Seeing that when there was film, you never knew what you were going to get, and so you were always surprised when you got back. So I mean, kind of at that mindset still with digital. I don't take a ton of photos, but and I don't like to look at them until let's say I get back to where we're staying or whatever, because I'm still in that mindset of film where I never get to see what I shot. For it could be a week or so seeing what I shot, and so you're always surprised. So digital kind of, the surprise of what you shot is kind of gone. So that mystery is a little bit different than it used to be when I started out. And that was kind of I think the mystery of photography is that you didn't know what you got until it got back. But now, you can see, and then you can change, you can reshoot, exposure was horrible or focus was bad. I'm pretty confident, obviously, how many photographs I've taken in my life and the experience I have, that I'm pretty good with knowing that I got a shot that's going to be probably pretty decent, and if it isn't, I delete it. But
so you're not one of those photographers that holds the photos too precious, then?
Oh, no.
So you don't. You're one of those outliers. A lot of photographers will keep all their photos, even if they are bad, or they feel that they're bad.
Oh, just a short little thing. See, when we moved up here to Michigan, we brought, I have thousands and thousands and thousands of slides and stuff. So maybe it was like a month ago, I started going through all the slides. I probably threw away easily over 1,000 slides, just dumped them. I looked through them, and they were garbage. I mean, there was nothing, no one would want to see them, and I kept the ones I thought were pretty good. And a good lesson was that I've learned a lot over the years of what's a good photograph and what's a lousy photograph. So all those lousy ones, see you later. Go
Bye.
And so
you're like, oh, this is garbage.
I got all this space now in the closet that was
for more photos.
Who gives a shit about all those old slides and negatives? Shit.
What do you have any like old standby techniques that you like to use over and over again?
Well, with the wide angle lens, it gives me the look of like I was more three-dimensional. It's like someone. It becomes some of the look like there's two different photographs going on, and I think that's something I get from using a wide angle is that I can have a close up, but then there's something. It's interesting in the foreground, but there's also something going in beyond the foreground that's just as interesting. So there's a story within the photograph. I think that it's not just a one-dimensional statement or something that's going on. Sometimes it's all is an accident, and sometimes I can see it beforehand. But I guess it's just a way of looking at things a little differently and positioning myself in an angle that's more interesting than just a snapshot kind of a presentation of something. So I do try to see it from all angles and see how it's going to look. Anyway,
what advice can you give to other artists?
I know this sounds like a cliche, but do something that you like, and don't try to look at something that from a different point of view rather than something that's pretty ordinary. But with the phones and stuff, there's so many people that take photographs, and they take photographs of everything, and everyone thinks they know how to take a picture, and there's a lot of great photographs, a lot of good photographers that haven't been around very long, but they're great. But I think try to look at things differently, look at the light, and that's what's important to me in photography is the light that you're photographing. So sometimes the light isn't interesting at all, and try different things. Try black and white. Try shooting in black and white, not just changing a color into black and white, because it's a bit different when you actually looking at something that's interesting to you, and I'm going to shoot it in black and white and not color, and then the software I'm going to change it to black and white. So there's a big difference. I think people should experiment with the way they look at things. So that's what I'd say. That's what I said.
Any professional advice you'd like to give?
It's way too competitive field. There's a lot of great painters. They do a great job, and I think people think with the phone that anyone can take a photograph, and so they look at a photograph. It's like any of these I had taken that. Oh, I can take that. That's no big deal, and you got to keep trying. It's not something that's very easy to, I think, to make money at, or it's because there's so many people doing it, but you have to keep working at it. And I guess most of it is really marketing yourself, and that's what separates. I don't know if you can consider just because you make some money doesn't mean you're successful or that you're a good artist. You're successful at making money, and to some people that's really important, and that's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, nothing wrong with that. But now I think I'm more interested in just enjoying the whole concept of creating something that pleases me, and I think that's important.
The process is what you like doing.
Yeah, I like the end result, and just being able to experience that, and that's what's cool about I think the iPhone. It gives you that immediacy of experiencing say you go someplace and you have that, then you can create a book, from Facebook or something. And you have those memories, um, and that's kind of a thing that you can keep and share with other people. That But anyway, something like that. How'd that sound?
Sounds good. Marketing is key, and also it is highly competitive. There's the whole art genre, art field as an occupation is very competitive. I do agree on that. Like you're competing on the world markets, the world stage now, as opposed to the state. The state or the country that you lived in, or where the county. Will, do you have a dream project?
Yeah, probably to go to Africa and be able to photograph the wildlife before they're no longer able to exist. I guess that would be a project that I'm planning on doing. So something as a memory of, hopefully it's not a memory of what wildlife used to be, but but
in the next 5 years or so, you want to do that?
Yeah, easily. Yeah.
Awesome. Are you is it in the works, or is it like on like the someday maybe list?
No, it's on the current list. It's one of probably the 2 or 3 top things we want to do soon.
Will, could you share some life advice for the audience?
What kind of advice?
Life advice. Personal advice, words of wisdom, quotes that you like to use for guidance.
There's a quote that I use on my email, is that imagination is more important than knowledge. So I think having a good imagination on things is something that's important. Don't be a conformist. Do something that you means something to you, and try to get better at doing what you do, and probably learn as much as you can. There's so many things you can learn from other people, and I guess that's a great thing, obviously, about YouTube and so many other things on the internet, that there's so much knowledge that people share, and that's awesome that you have that ability. We have that ability to learn from others. So keep learning, and it's not always the equipment that you have that's important. It's how you see things, and so if you get a big camera or something, or it's not the camera that's taking the picture, you're taking the picture. So think about how you're seeing things, and it's not the camera. So,
Will, how would you like people to remember this conversation? How would you summarize it?
Maybe they learned something about me that they didn't know about, if anybody's on there that knows me. And that I think I'm wise. I guess I've learned a lot, and I like to share what I've learned with people, share my knowledge, and hopefully, whether it's from gardening or it's from places I've been, but they learned something about what I shared with them today.
All right. Well, I think we're coming to an end. How do you feel about that?
I haven't talked so much in a long time.
You haven't talked so. Yeah. It's quite. It does quite a number. You're probably going to feel quite exhausted after this. You're gonna sit down and you're gonna sit down on the like you're probably gonna you might go downstairs or in another room and sit down on a couch and feel like you just ran a 5K.
I think I'm gonna pour another glass of wine though. That's right.
You probably, yes, sounds like a great idea. Will, before we go, where can people find you? Where can they look up your work? What websites, what social media platforms do you use that people can get a hold of you and see your work?
You can go to shot2amaze.com. That's number 2, shot2amaze. And that's where my work is for sale through that site. And on Facebook, you can look at me on my Shot2Amaze website. You can search for that, and Instagram. I think it's actually it was in the email you had on Facebook. It had that, and LinkedIn too. But LinkedIn is mostly my career as a e-learning designer.
Yeah,
it's background on that, but
all of it's in the description for those that are interested.
Yeah,
I believe so. If you want to find to see more Will Probeck's work, you can check all of his social media platforms and website in the YouTube description section. Will, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing stuff, sharing this time and this conversation. I really enjoyed the elk conversation, how they amount to 2 bears or 3.5 deers.
Yeah, I know you like that.
If anything, what I gathered out of this is I learned about elk and my fascination with clean floors.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you. Thank you everyone that watched. And before we leave, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and smash the notifications bell. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks.